Are we on? Huh? Yeah. Okay. This class supposed to be a open discussion class. Still on the chapter 6 from Serpent Power, written by Arthur Avalon. And the name of the chapter is Practice. It's a chapter on the practice of Laya Yoga. So let's go ahead. If there's no questions, not too many people showed up today. If there's no questions, then we can just go into more. We can go more into the chapter. Okay, so is there any questions? No?
No.
Okay. We left off on, did anyone remember where we left off at the last time?
On 5:15, we had open discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about breathing, the intake of breath, the holding of breath, and you were explaining the yamas and how many yamas are in a day.
Okay. Okay, well, let's go into this. Let's go into, I guess we could go into this, but I would probably rather go into this more when everyone's here. So we can go back and talk about, we can go and look at some slides, which I thought we had went over. But you say we didn't do it, huh?
I only remember that the red document that I read from
The all black chart.
with the Shiva Shaktic, the galaxy after. That one I remember we read a few pages.
We read this.
Yeah, a couple of pages.
Show it on the screen, Robert. So we went through this?
Not the whole document, we read a couple of pages. the first 10 or 12 pages.
And did we go over this?
This I've never seen.
All right.
That I haven't seen either.
You never seen this either? This is online though, isn't it?
Where?
Huh?
Yeah.
On Facebook.
When did you post that?
This was a long time ago.
You posted the chart up?
Yeah, this chart right here is online. So what we want to talk about energy. We last time in the discussion we talked about pranayama, right?
Yes.
And here we can talk about where this energy comes from. Now we could do it on this chart, or we can go back into the PowerPoint. Which is better, you all think?
Could you make this chart bigger, full screen?
I don't know.
Close off the Shapes menu on the left-hand side.
Let's go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, let's go into this so that we kind of can grasp some type of understanding from it. At the top, we have the representation of Shiva, which is the absolute or God. And Shiva represents the unmanifested, endless potential. And now scientists are calling it known as the dark matter, with endless potential and power. From Shiva, you have Vak, which is the supreme subtle sound, the initial sound of creation. And from that comes Shakti. And Shakti is the all-pervasive power of the universe. And from Shakti comes, Shakti builds everything or builds the principles in which it actually lived by. It's like the comic signatures or the framework of Shakti, which is in Sanskrit Nani, Chitta, Prana, and Amana. The Shakti, Nani means wisdom, and it gives the knowledge and wisdom of the divine laws in place. Chitta is this universal mind that the Absolute works with in order to mold the next main Shakti principle, which is prana. And of course, Amana is the preservative power of the Absolute, which we call love. It preserves creation throughout its duration. And from that, we're told that the Mahabhutas springs forth inside this framework of laws. And the Mahabhutas are the cosmic elements. And these cosmic elements is all pervasive throughout the universe. Add speed to the wave of the creative Shakti power. Then you have Tejas, Bhutas,
etheric fire and light, which helps to expand this creative wave of Shakti power, and it transfers energy throughout the wave. Then you have apas, bhutas, which is the cosmic etheric liquid within the universe, creating a cooling effect that pervades all visible and invisible creation. And then you have the Parithis bhutas, which is the cosmic etheric solids, creating a contraction of all the cosmic elements and subtle energies to manifest solid, subtle, and gross matter. So these are the cosmic elements that's throughout the universe. And this is very, very important to understand in your practice of this. The more you understand about this subtle energy and power, the more you can manipulate it and the more you can tap into it. So it's very, very important to understand this because it gives you the keys to understanding the manipulation of power.
The battery died, but I don't have any more spare batteries.
I should have told my whole packet now.
It's this mic is on right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna go check in my car.
Can ask who's online, can they hear me as I talk?
You want to move the camera closer to him? Oh, no, but then we need the chart.
Can you hear it?
I can.
No, the phone got very high. You have to look
I
at
can
the
hear.
chart.
They can hear you. Just have to speak up a little
Okay,
louder.
okay.
But I'll be right back.
So we, it's very important to understand this, and so that you can manipulate the power better. These Mahabhutas, they are the cosmic elements of the universe. So it is the materia that the souls of the universe pull on, whether they the tiny souls or the tremendous souls like planets and suns and solar systems and galaxies. They pull on the Mahabhutas in order to build their bodies of expression. So it's very, very important. Now, another aspect that we have to look at in our small world is the Tantric rays. And the Tantric rays is a combination of Shiva, of Nata, Shakti principles, and the Maha Bhutas. All of this make up the Tantric rays. And the Tantric rays actually flow from the suns, the mighty suns of the universe. So within every solar system, you have the sun. You have a sun. And these Tantric rays go within the sun, and they are pushed out to the planets within the solar system. And the planets within the solar system, they build their bodies and maintain the life forms and their bodies from the Tantric rays of the sun, according to the ancient teachings of the Vedas and all the great holy works that talked about this. You have these Tantric rays that flow from the sun, and they flow from the sun by the recitation of the holy word that we know of. The AUM, the creative word, is spoken every 32 minutes from the mighty sun, and from that comes the Tantric rays. And these Tantric rays build the realms of existence that we live on in different systems of dimensions. So it's very important to understand this, because in your practice of yoga, no matter what type of yoga you're practicing, you will be seeking to manipulate the subtle energies so that these subtle energies can enhance you to the point where you can communicate with your higher self and elevate your consciousness to the higher realms of existence. So the mechanism, to understand the mechanism of why this work and how it works is important, because it gives you a greater confidence so that you can concentrate more on this. Okay? So the Tantric rays, which I put here in this section, which resorts into planetary Gnotic flow of energy, right? The flow of energy that moves around in the atmosphere of the earth is a Gnotic energy. It's the nadis of the earth. The earth have nadis the same way we have nadis within our bodies. And then the 49 planetary vortex centers that produce multiple layers of realms of existence. The earth has 49 chakras, okay, and they are vortex centers, and it's these vortex centers that creates the layers of realms within the earth, which leads to multiple levels of consciousness on the mineral, plant, animal, and human levels, on the mental, subtle, and gross levels of existence. That's what these Tantric rays do. So that we can begin to kind of piece this whole thing together, so that when we sit in the silence, we just not blanking our mind. We understand that we are on one of these existences, and which is generally called the gross level of existence. At the same time, we're on a mental level of existence within the gross plane, because remember, there's systems of dimensions. There's only 7 dimensions, but you have 7 dimensions. That's a system of dimensions. On each rim, there are 7 dimensions, but there's 7 dimensions to that particular frequency. Okay, so we have to begin to understand that. And further we go down, we talk about the Tantric rays. The formation at this level produce the following energy combinations, which are the chakra petals, the original samskaras, sounds of the soul, the manas, the chitta used by man, the Kundalini, the soul's vehicle of consciousness. And I push this because when I know a lot of people, when they talk about Kundalini, they want to talk about the dormant state of Kundalini? Well,
Look at it to try to understand and grasp, understand and keep understanding with it. That's correct, because Kundalini is a dormant state of energy. But it's a very active state of energy too. It's just that the greatest portion of Kundalini is dormant, and the part of Kundalini that that's active is the part is your consciousness, because Kundalini is the vehicle that consciousness is produced. So that's why you always hear me say the soul's vehicle of consciousness, because that's more related to us than anything. The nadis, which is a flow of energy projected from the power of Kundalini, and then the nati knots, which is the nadis threaded through the petals, activating the chakras, so that we can have consciousness on the different levels of existence. And the 5 major pranas, a positive vital flow of subtle energies that sustains life, and the 5 minor pranas, a negative vital flow of subtle energies that helps to sustain life as well. Then you have the ojas, the subtle vital life force, and then you have the 7 dhatus, which is the subtle body tissues, okay? And this is the energy configuration of the human existence. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 energy formations. Okay? So in your practice, you have to begin to try to, the more you understand this, the more you can manipulate the subtle energies within the body. So that's why I stress this. When you understand something, it gives you a greater confidence of it, and you can begin to tap into this subtle energy. So I want you to look at it like that. and then you'll begin to tap in it, because the first thing, the key, to successful practice is knowledge, is the Jnana Yoga. And when you can get this knowledge, and when you can obtain this knowledge and understand this knowledge, then you can apply the knowledge. And that's why you always hear me stress understanding, trying to understand something in a simple, easy way, so that you can begin to apply it in your life. Other than that, it means nothing. It means nothing. Having a talking point is useless if you don't truly understand it. Because if you understand it, then slowly but surely you'll begin to apply it and practice it within your life. Just wrote here, there are several levels of knowledge that the mystic student of yoga must obtain in order to begin to achieve the basic and mid-levels of mystic spiritual levels of consciousness that the accomplished yogi adepts speak of and reference in various yoga techniques that has been promoted throughout the centuries. This is simply referred to as Jnana Yoga. Of course, Jnana Yoga is the yoga of knowledge and wisdom. that gives us, that's given to us from the great yogis, the seers and the masters. Now, I try to put this in the most simple way as I can. Obtain all available and useful knowledge on the mystic teachings, the mystic techniques and procedures, right? This, I'm speaking general when we go begin to practice. Most spiritual development techniques is a combination of several yoga principles brought together by a great yogi master. This combination usually contains the following yoga systems: Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and Raja Yoga. And within Raja Yoga, you know you have the 8 limbs of yoga. We know Jnana Yoga is the yoga of wisdom. And it gives you the wisdom behind the technique. Karma Yoga is the yoga of divine actions of the technique. And then Bhakti Yoga is the mystic science of spiritual devotion within the yoga technique. Hatha Yoga, which are the mystic sciences surrounding the physical development component of the yoga technique. Raja Yoga contains the ancient instructions of the 8 limbs of yoga, which has a focus on the mystic science of mental development. Okay? And that's very important because remember, mental development, a mind does what?
Molds and shapes.
It molds and shapes energy, right? So that's very, very important.
So when,
Yeah.
when you, in the first introduction paragraph, when you say the several levels of knowledge, of understanding before you can gain, in the first paragraph?
Yeah.
Is that what these 1, 2, that's the several
Yes,
levels framework?
yeah, that's the several levels. Because knowledge, you can understand something. You can have a knowledge of something, but you don't really understand that knowledge.
Yes.
And then you can understand something, but yet you don't have the knowledge of that. And you definitely don't have any wisdom. See? So that's the whole thing about Jnana Yoga.
Explain what you just said. You can have information and not understand it, which
Mm-hmm.
is very common. We see that in everyday life around us.
Yeah.
But how can you understand something, but explain the second part of that?
Because you,
Intuitive, so like,
huh?
does that mean like you can intuitively understand something but can't necessarily
No,
see?
because you understand something with false knowledge. You understand, because right now most of our knowledge is false knowledge.
Oh, like
Okay.
something is happening and you create a false story to explain it.
No, it's just false knowledge, because right now we don't. The majority of people on Earth, when they see an insect, the first thing they think about is getting poison to kill it, because they don't see that insect as an individual or being that's on their journey to becoming a god. See, so they have false knowledge, understanding, false experience with that, because they're not strong enough to really see that life form as a real life form. We have false knowledge of the items that we use: the chair, the ground, the building, the air we breathe. We have false knowledge of that. We see it only as a component to use to sustain ourselves. We don't see it as part of a greater whole. See, we don't understand that we are afforded this air because of the grace of greater beings. You understand? So that's what I mean by you can have knowledge of something, and yet don't understand it. And then you can understand something and don't have that knowledge. You know, and that's the basis of most of our knowledge, because we only see one layer of it, and that layer is usually related to us and it's selfish. So that's, you know, so there's different levels of knowledge and understanding. You know, that's why when you get to the level, you know, this is one of the main reasons for trying to control your mind and your body and your the essence of you, so you can dig down deep and contact the higher self and see things as they are. You know, see your connection to all the realms of existence. See your connections to the essence of the logos of this earth. See your connections to the essence, to the logos of not only this earth, but all the planets within the solar system. And see your connections to the sun itself and to the central sun, you know, to the galaxy, to the universe. And it takes time and hundreds of thousands of lifetimes in order to get there. It's just not going to happen tomorrow. And that's the whole thing. You know, if we lost, in fact, our karmic actions is the reason why we're so disconnected from this greater knowledge. You know, because we have mutated ourselves to a certain degree. You know, at one time, we could have pulled on the power of Jupiter and pushed it down through us and manifest that power. The radiated power coming from Jupiter, or the radiated power coming from Mars, or the power coming from Uranus. At one time we can tap into our chakra systems and pull down this energy and manifest it here. But because of our own karmic actions, we can't do that anymore. Because why? We have mutated our auras. We have mutated the atmosphere of this earth. You know, only a small percentage of that, of those energies are actually getting down to us. You know, and the earth herself had to withdraw the great magnetic energy that she used to use for us in order to make that connection, you know, to these higher powers. So now we have to build our subtle and physical bodies back to that level so that we can do that, so that we can see things as they are, not as our maya, the illusion that we have created for ourselves, you know, see it, you know, and that's the big difference. So to gain good understanding on the basic knowledge of the procedure that has been tested, proven, and documented with repeated results. So those things that we can understand right away, dive into it. Try to understand it because that helps you connect to that practice. You know, just like when I gave you the practice inside the science of breath, and you connected to that. So what do you do with something like that, and you see the proven results? So what you do, you study it more. You try to study why those actions. Yeah, I mean, you look at all components of it. You try to look at the mental side of it, the emotion side of it, the physical side of it, the subtle physical side of it, the subtle mental part of it, even the emotion part. You begin to study that, because the more you know about something, the greater energy you can pull from it, and the greater results you can bring about. So that's very, very important. Number three, obtain as much and as much of the theoretical knowledge and concept based on the mystic knowledge of the technique, which I refer to as the subtle nature of the technique and the practice of it. And that's very important too. So, because a lot of stuff we read and study on the mystic side of it, we cannot understand it because we haven't studied enough of yoga or absorbed it into our daily life. So we just go along like monkeys. In most cases, just trying to do it, and we might do it because we like the sensation of it. But I'm saying that according to the method of practice, that we study that. We study every angle of it. We began to study every component of it so we could put together the ancient knowledge and make sense of it. Number four, as the mystic student apply and acquire the knowledge with the technique, his or her consciousness becomes more perceptive and aware of the subtle powers and resorts promised by those who have went down this road before. So when you become aware of this, then study that. And what we're told to do, we're told to start a diary, a journal, and write down. Every time we finish our practice and we have an experience or we have a certain feeling, write it down, because that's going to help you in the future. You go back and you study that and you say, this is my experience, because a lot of people, they can't retain exactly what happened. It comes back to them in flashes and it's vague. But write down that experience right then and there, and so that you keep a journal on it, so that you can begin to understand exactly what happened to you, and you'll have a greater appreciation of it over time. Okay. Number five, at the fifth level, extreme change occurs from prolonged practice of the mystic technique. Now the mystic student has accumulated data from personal experience of prolonged practice. Okay? Now, when you do this, when you begin to practice these things for long periods of time, many things will begin to happen to you. And you will accumulate a lot of data, sensation, emotions. This is why you want to begin to write it down, because so many things will begin to happen to you that you cannot explain. And it might be years into the future before you truly understand it. In the early days, I used to chant mantra 3, 4, 5, 6, sometime 12 hours a day, and do my yoga practices 12 hours a day, my breathing pranayama, along with the mantra. And hundreds of things, hundreds of psychic things used to happen to me. Hundreds of incidents. If you don't write it down, you won't be able to remember all of it, and you won't be able to reference back exactly what happened. And a lot of times, at least with me, I have a fairly good memory. I only had to write down 2 or 3 sentences in order to call back that memory. So because it's you shouldn't have to, in my opinion, you shouldn't have to write a long journal. You just need to write, a little incident or two related to that experience that you want to call back. And that's very, very important because it may be years later that you truly, truly begin to understand it and begin to realize exactly what happened and why it happened, and you can understand the mechanics of it. You know, so that's very, very important. Okay, I tell you an incident. In my days of practicing yoga for 6, 7, 8, 10 hours a day, I would retire at the end of my parents' driveway, the walkway, and I would just sit and pray and give thanks to for having this knowledge and opportunity to practice, right? And one day when I went out to the end of the sidewalk, I seemed to go into a different timetable. The whole surroundings change. You know, it's like I walked into the future. And there, in front of my mother's house, was woods. It was just a forest, and it had been like that as far back as I can remember. But now there was a building there. There was several buildings. There were, apartment complex, and to the east of my mother's property, there was these migrant houses, but they were no longer they were there, but they were all fixed up, and they had these pastel colors, and I was saying, what is and I turned back around. I still could see my mother's house, but everything else around her changed. And then all of a sudden, I stepped back and I came back into the presence, and the woods was there and everything. Now, later on, that bothered me so much, and I had never had a physical psychic experience like that, where it looked like I walked into the future, right? So I went back to try to figure out what happened, right? And I just couldn't make sense of it. So later on, I just left it alone. But some years later, maybe about 10 years later, was it 10 years or, it had to be 12, maybe 12 years later, 12 or 15 years later, Hurricane Andrew came by and devastated that area. And the apartment complex that went in front of her house, I was one of the developers who put it there. The pastel colors of the places, all of that was redone. They came in and they redid that whole area. So I was looking at the future. So you have things like that happen to you that you're not going to understand for years later. Why, why? And so that's why I'm saying that's why you need to write it down. I ran and I wrote that down, and I wrote about the whole experience because I felt like I walked through time. So it's very important to write that stuff down because you won't remember it later. You will remember it, but not to the detail that you want, so that you can understand. And then later, I understood. I was able to understand it in a mechanical way. And that's the way I like to understand something. Yeah.
So like in that situation, it was later on it was explained to you what you saw.
Well, life explained it because
life revealed to you what you saw.
Yeah.
But why were you shown it at that time?
The way I looked at it is because it was a turning point in my life. So it showed me a turning point in my life, and I realized that because when I went into it, I realized that I would be responsible
Yeah, that's what I
for
want.
making that change, in that in that particular neighborhood. But the thing about, I was a teenager at the time when when this happened to me. But it just is. I think that's why, because that was a big turning point in my life. Years later, and it was very unusual, to have a psychic experience like that, but it helped me to understand many things later.
So like I asked that because I understand that these like psychic experiences, they're not just random things going on. They're shown to you for a reason or for a purpose, but you may not understand that.
Yeah, you may not be able to
wrong.
interpret it right away.
There's a reason you're being shown these things.
Mhm.
It's because you're randomly turning a switch on or something.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's very important that's why keeping the journal and understanding what's going on and make sense of it. Don't just brush it off in a new age type way. At the sixth level of obtaining and using the new knowledge, begin to reveal the inner mechanics of the technique and the karmic implications of the actions, causes, resorts, additional causes for corrective resorts and effects. Okay, and that all comes into play with understanding the laws of karma and understanding that our goal to obtaining spiritual knowledge and spiritual levels of consciousness is to become a point of consciousness under karmic authority. That's our main goal. Is to work within the laws of karma in order to build to build ourselves up to become a cooperative entity that the higher ones can work through. All right. So that's our goal. Is there any questions? Is there any further questions on this?
So although you lay these out sequentially, does that mean that it happens in that process, or can it
Basically, I think that this is. These are the major points. These are the major ways of this happening. Now, there's a lot of stuff I can interject in there that you need to do, but I'm just giving you a bird's eye view of it. But of course, that the first thing you need to do is control your mind, control sex. Eat right. Think right on a daily basis. There's a whole list of things you need to adopt. I gave you all those lists in the past. But essentially, when you get serious about doing the practice, you're going to have to realize, and this is discrimination, something that Dr. George King talked about. You have to discriminate on the information that you're given and the psychic information that's given to you too, because you're not going to understand it. You're not going to understand the psychic visions that you may have, the psychic hearing or smelling or whatever or tasting. You're not going to understand it right away, and you're going to get it wrong. You will get it wrong when it begins to happen. And you'll say all the wrong things and you'll do all the wrong things. Just like anything, you have to be taught and train yourself to interpret those new senses and new levels of consciousness. It's just like a person who never seen before. If they went 20 years of their life without sight, and then all of a sudden they're given sight, they begin to lose their balance to walk, to talk, to pick up something. Because why? They're using a new sense now. They have to learn to use that sight, because it's just like the incident where they said that someone they got their sight, and they were on the 4th floor, and they looked out the window and they seen a car out the window, and they thought they could reach down and pick it up because they had no sense of depth. So it's the same way when you begin to see psychically, you have no sense of depth.
Children at the beginning, they have a sense of depth.
Yeah.
So they have to, and then they slowly develop.
They slowly develop it. So you have to slowly develop your psychic sight, and you have to slowly develop your perception, your understanding, your knowledge. If you grow in knowledge and wisdom, you have to slowly begin to understand this new knowledge. Because the more you understand, the more you're going to understand that you don't understand. Okay, so that's the whole key of it. Because what you're doing, you're understanding one level, and that's it. If you go to if you go to one of the astral realms, then the day and night is different from the day and night here. Because why? Because the vibrations on that astral realm is different. Right? The rate, because it's on a whole different frequency of vibration than what we are. And if you, so you may think, well, it's still a part of the earth, so the day should be 24 hours a day. No, the day might only be 8 hours a day and 8 hours a night, because it might spin different. See? And so then there might be more days in the year and there, or they may calculate it all different anyway. Halfway around the sun might be a year for them. Or a third of the way around the sun. You don't know. And, in each realm, it becomes a little different. The content of water might be different. There's so many different things that you begin to notice and see. So then, therefore, the interpretation and the understanding of knowledge is different. The rate in which something bores might be different. The rate something spore might be different. Than it is here. Even the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom might respond differently than what they do here. So this it depends on the level of consciousness you're on and how that consciousness wraps itself around matter, or allow matter to wrap itself around it as well. So that's, so then the only thing I'm trying to tell you is that is different. The laws are the same, but the laws may have a different response in different places. And we know that. We know that. If I'm on the water, when I throw a softball in the water is different than throwing a softball in the open air, right? It's very different. I need a greater strength and pressure in order to sling that softball away from me. Because why? Because the water have pressurized itself around me and any object. Unlike the air bubble, where the air can help accelerate something. So it's just different. So you have to understand the laws around things and the different systems of dimension as you grow in understanding. So the thing I'm trying to tell you is that developing a higher state of consciousness and grabbing on to a certain knowledge. As you sow, so shall you reap doesn't mean that much to a 3-year-old, right? It might mean more to a 7-year-old. It might mean a little bit more to a 15-year-old. And then to an adult, it might mean a more or even less, depending on what state of mind they're in. You know, because at that point, you know, they likely to go either way because of their bad habits or good habits, one or the other. But to a spiritual person, it means a whole lot. You know, you could take away a little bit more. And the more and the more you elevate your consciousness, the more you can take away from it. And the more inclusive it becomes for you and everyone around you, your community, your state, your country, and the world. And then the worlds, all the subtle worlds and the lower subtle worlds and the higher worlds. So that's what I mean. So you know you have to discriminate, and you have to realize, you know, that you have to take it slow, and don't be so bold in your take on things. You have to learn to be inclusive. So is there any questions? Okay, and the last thing we have here, the students, the serious student, the serious mystic student at this time begins to come into acute awareness of the great laws, which I kind of say the great laws of karma that governs how our actions in regards to the technique and the spiritual enhancing qualities over the spiritual actions of the technique. We kind of talked about that already, right? And the last thing is, the last thing for this week, is introducing Bhakti Yoga into your development techniques, which is the devotion to God or to life itself. Is there any other questions or whatever? And we'll go more into this in the coming weeks, and then we'll begin to go over certain techniques and show how important it is. And I think I gave out, I go back to the archives because I think we went over Yama and the Yama. Didn't I give you all the different, it was 55 or 100, some Yama and then Yama? You know, the original Yama and then Yama of what you should do and should not do.
Yeah. It was like a list of what you should refrain from.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was years ago. I gave it to him. It might be online. Is it online?
Should be.
Is it on the meetup or?
The handout itself is class.
I think the handouts might be on Meetup.
Okay, I'm not on the meetup one.
I think, I'm not sure. But we'll go into that a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
About discerning and discriminating.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean discern the data and determine appropriate application? She was seeking more of a confirmation of her understanding was correct.
Yeah, well, you need to discriminate on all information given to you. You know, and I always made a practice of that. And one of the simple ways to do it is that information that you have received from I like to say from the adepts or masters that have proven themselves throughout the centuries. It shouldn't it shouldn't go against that. In other words, it should only expand on it. You know, so that's why it's very important to, and then it should, it should be practical. You should make things practical in your life. You know, that's why when I give you all the information, I told you all personally, stay away from culturally type stuff. You know, just get the meat of it, of that lesson, but don't necessarily lean towards a particular culture because the lesson is for the world. It's not for a particular race or whatever. Yeah, but it's good to always discriminate against everything. Look at it carefully, examine it properly, and and apply it in your life accordingly. And if people did that more, they wouldn't fall for like these so-called meditation groups that tell you to blank your mind. That totally goes against all the ancient teachings. It totally goes against all the ancient teachings. So, crazy things that they tell you to do is so simple, If you read a book and they tell you that Kundalini doesn't matter, close the book. Because it goes against, you can't blink your eye without Kundalini. You can't breathe without Kundalini. The hair can't grow on your head. You can't eat without Kundalini. Kundalini creates all action. So someone tell you that Kundalini doesn't matter, that person is not a real yogi, mystic, or anything. So that's where discrimination comes in at. You have to look at things on a factual basis. If that's it, there's no other questions, we can close out. All right, let's go ahead and close up.
The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. Thank you for watching.